Hello everyone and welcome to Brontë Mania. Today I'd like to concentrate on the life and times of Branwell Brontë. I will start by showing you one of my sketches, one of which I'm particularly pleased with. I'd like to follow that by reading one of his poems. This one is entitled The Doubter's Hymn. Life is a passing sleep, its deeds a troubled dream, and death the dread awakening to daylight's dawning beam. We sleep without a thought of what is past an hour, without a glimpse of consciousness of aught that lies before. We dream, and on our sight 1,000 visions rise, some dark as hell, some heavenly bright, but all are fantasies. We wake, and oh how fast these mortal visions fly, forgot amid the wonders vast of immortality. And oh, when we arise with wildered gaze to see the aspect of those morning skies, where will that waking be? How will that future seem? What is eternity? Is death the sleep? Is heaven the dream? Life the reality? I think in this poem we get a glimpse of the true Branwell in verse. It relates very much to his own experiences, particularly in the second line where he talks about a troubled dream, because let's be honest, Branwell did have a very troubled life. He had many bad situations he got himself into, some through his own fault, some with thrown in his direction. He tried his best to overcome them, but he didn't perhaps have the mental fortitude or the strength of will to overcome his reverses, and they brought him down. There's various episodes of this happening throughout his life. As I say, some self-inflicted, some not. One of the ones I would say mostly is not self-inflicted was when he worked in the railways. He was doing quite well in his role there as a clerk in charge at the railway station. He actually got a promotion. I believe he was first of all an assistant in charge, and then clerk in charge, and then became the main man. And when he got his promotion, things were going okay for him. But then it was discovered that there was an issue with the keeping of the ledger, and there was some money that was not accounted for. And it turns out he had gone off in one of his binges to the local tavern and left his second in command in charge, and it was probably him that actually pilfered the money. But the accusation was made at Branwell. It was discovered he was not guilty of that charge, but he was guilty of negligence, because he was leaving at the station house in charge of an assistant, and he wasn't even there, so that was a black mark on him. But it was a bit of a misfortune really for him, because he seemed to be doing quite well in that position. There was another instance where he worked as a tutor in a family in the Lake District, where he had two male pupils, and he was doing really well in that position. But then being in the Lake District, he thought it was a great place to be, being a writer and artist. He explored his surroundings a bit too much when he should have been teaching the pupils. He was actually going out and about and admiring the scenery and writing verse and maybe a few sketches on the side too, because he was multi-talented in that way. And which led, of course, to him losing his position there. So that's another episode that went awry. And of course, the one that really ruined his life, in my opinion, was when he went to Thorpe Green Hall, where his sister Anne got in position as tutor to young Edmund Robinson. And he was doing a fine job there with the boy. They were getting on really well. Studies were going really well, but unfortunately he took a liking too much to the mistress of the household, Mrs. Robinson, and she flirted with him, and became a bit of a scandal between the two of them. There was weird little affair going on there, and this led to Branwell losing his position, but it was much worse than that, because it brought him really low, because he imagined that Mrs. Robinson was going to marry him after her husband died, and he was really in a bad way at that time with his health, so it looked like he was going to be marrying Mrs. Robinson, but it was a fool's paradise really. She would never have married him, because she was on a far higher social scale than him. He was just nothing but a poor young man with artistic talent. She was looking for something much higher for herself. So in the end, it all went awry for him, and that was the moment where his life really spiraled out of control, went really downhill, and he was a lost soul after that. And towards the end of his life, even his family almost turned their backs on him, because they thought, he was a hopeless case, and it was a shame for him. But at the end, there was a touching moment just before his death, where they all were by his bedside, and his father, Patrick Brontë, the church minister at Haworth, gave a prayer on his behalf, and he uttered an amen at the end, which made everything almost much better within the family, because especially with Charlotte, because she thought he had completely moved away from God. But that was the thing with Branwell. I always have thought, people say, oh yeah, he moved away from God and all that, but I don't think he ever really did. I think he just thought that he had done so many things he felt badly about, that he just could not return to the Lord's blessing, because he just thought he was a lost sheep and would remain so, which is rather apt in a way, because in many ways people consider Branwell to be the black sheep in the Brontë household. But I hope my sentiments in this video will shed a little bit of a new light on Branwell, and the fact that deep inside him he had a good heart, but it was just circumstance which knocked him around, and in the end I believe he was quite happy to leave his life behind, because it had given him no real pleasure. That's all for this video. Thanks very much for tuning into it, and in my next video I plan to do I think I'll do a video on Maria. This will be a connecting theme, because it's Maria, the sibling to Branwell, who died very young. It's connecting in that Branwell and Maria were very close as children, and when she died, I believe Branwell lost a lot of direction. If she had been around, she could have given him the support he needed in times when he was going astray, which his other sisters did show, but I think Maria could have been, he just looked up to her so much, I think she could have made a difference. So that'll be my next video, which I plan to do tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.